Hello and welcome back to EMPYRION Galactic Survival. My name is Spanj and today we're going to be talking about 1.5 and what we know so far. 1.5 is the next version of EMPYRION that we're expecting out fairly soon. It has been a while since 1.4 came out. In fact, I can't even remember when that came out. It doesn't really matter. It's been a while because the game is no longer in alpha, which means it's no longer in early access on Steam, and so the developers don't need to update it quite so frequently. So what we're seeing is we're seeing longer waits between updates, but bigger updates in general. Now, they've been quite closed-lip on what is coming up in 1.5, but we are now actually starting to get some teasers and information about that. And they've done this in a series of dev blog announcements on their official forums. Now, I will link down below to the official forums if you would like to go and read these for yourselves. I, however, I'm going to try and summarize them for you now. The first bit of information we got from Eleon regarding 1.5 was a brief prospect announcement, which was actually an announcement of a roadmap of the versions that are coming up this year, which in itself is incredibly unique. This has never happened before. For a while now, I have been pushing Eleon to release any kind of roadmap to give us an idea of which direction they're taking the game, and they have been adamant all along that they will not ever do a roadmap. And here we see a very vague roadmap, but a roadmap nonetheless. It's vague in the sense, well, if we look at version 1.6, all they can tell us is it's slated for August 2021, and the focus will be bug fixing and content creation and something related to it. Like I said, vague. Now, we could speculate all day about what that possibly means, but at the end of the day, we have no idea. We absolutely have no idea. And so, yeah, okay, it's a roadmap, but it doesn't really tell us much. Now, some of the other information in this roadmap is a little bit more forthcoming. For example, version 1.5, which of course we know now a little bit about. This is coming at the end of May, with the experimental release expected a couple of weeks before. So really any day now, we're expecting that experimental release to come out. Keep an eye out for it. What kind of changes are we expecting in version 1.5? This roadmap goes on to explain a few of those, such as new AI management for some of the creatures. This is a test. They're going to be testing on raptors and parasaurs for the time being, but it doesn't necessarily go into what these AI changes are or how we can maybe see what these creatures are going to be doing any different. I'm sure that will come out maybe in the experimental patch notes, but for now, all we know is that there's some new AI for creatures. Not something I generally pay attention to when I'm playing, but, you know, the AI is definitely something that needs work in the game, so it's all good news. Start with the creatures, hopefully work all the way up to the bad guys that we have to shoot, and subsequently shoot us back. New HUD changes are coming. No idea what parts of the HUD are getting changed, but some parts of the HUD are definitely tired, outdated, and not overly clear. So HUD changes, hopefully that means good things. Updates to missions and tutorials. Well, they've been doing this for a while. The missions and tutorials have gone through several rewrites, so it's not surprising that they're going to be doing this again. And hopefully the missions and tutorials will now be in a state where we can say they're done, maybe, to some extent. New loading screens and new models for weapons and tools as well. Again, no idea what those new models and things are going to look like. The loading screens have been broken for a while now, so that's good that they're finally getting fixed and updated. New models for weapons is also good. Some of the tools and weapons, again, look dated, old, and a bit kind of so hopefully they're going to be nice new sci-fi looking, good looking tools and weapon models, which will be nice. Overall, this first post, they do emphasize a lot on the story stuff and that they're hoping for a lot of feedback from us in the experimental version around the tutorial and things like that. Experimental, like I said, should be dropping any day now, so keep an eye out for it. The next bit of information they give us is another dev blog, and this week they focus all on factions. One of the biggest bits of news, especially for me, is the fact that they will be adding the Brotherhood of Far faction into the game for 1.5, which is fantastic news, and I'm so very, very grateful to Eleon for adding them in, and I am so very also grateful to all the builders that contributed to that faction. It's good news. I'm hoping that everyone will enjoy the Brotherhood of Far faction, the mystery and intrigue that they will hopefully bring to the game. Other factions are being added as well, including the new Warlord faction, which will have a bunch of sub-factions like the Scar, Trazari, among others. This is an interesting one because the Warlords is kind of like a free-for-all faction where anybody could submit some builds to it, and you know, as long as they're in like a theme, a consistent theme, they have some kind of like vague backstory or something, you can add your own faction to the Warlords faction and have them trouncing around the galaxy in far-flung systems for you to find later. Quite a nice concept, and very much as in the sort of community spirit, and I hope that actually picks up and some more people do submit their stuff to the Warlords faction. It will hopefully add another element of exploration and mystery to the game. You jump to a system and you have no idea what you're going to find. You might waltz in and find a Scar fleet waiting for you, or you might waltz in and find a bunch of civilians chilling out. They also go on to say that they've added a bunch more stuff to the pirates, the Tesh, which we know very little about at the moment. There's some kind of mysterious faction that are very powerful, more powerful than the Legacy. So, and some of these things will play into the main story arc of the game. In the next blog post, they go on to, again, much more about the storyline stuff and the changes to the missions that they've done. And the most interesting part of that is that they've actually confirmed that the missions are no longer going to be taking place in the same planet and orbit. Now, at the moment, all 6 of the chapters of story mission that you can play take place on where you start in the game. Now it looks like you're going to have to actually go warpy warps around the local system at least in order to complete those first 6 chapters, which I think is an excellent step and a good way to improve the pacing of the game. They've also done a lot of work on the tutorial, which they kind of hinted at earlier, and again they're looking for a lot of good constructive feedback on this tutorial that they've done. So in the experimental version, even if you are experienced with the game, it is recommended to run through the tutorial, and if you're inclined to do so, put some feedback on the forums about what you think can be made better, if anything at all. They also give us some kind of vague and somewhat unclear explanation about some game code that they're working on, which will help make them storytelling in the future less of a linear thing. It's difficult to figure out what they're getting at here, but one of the things that occurs to me, and this is just speculation at this point, is that we're going to have sort of more open world style storytelling where you can actually freely explore if you maybe happen upon the right sort of POI or ship or system type or something, it then counts towards the mission, rather than going very much an ABC kind of go here mission type. It would be kind of like, hey, you know, it would be great if we can find this type of planet or this type of material and something like that. That's what I think this kind of this paragraph means, but honestly, yeah, again, it's a little vague and unclear. The final dev blog that we've got so far at the time of recording this video is a nice little teaser of some new blocks that they're going to be providing for us in 1.5, including new Deco Blocks, some very Star Wars inspired heavy windows, which I think look fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to getting those into my builds. The Legacy laser turrets, the little bulb turret things, are getting all different colors and stuff, which is very nice, and will hopefully open the door up for like faction roleplay stuff. You know, one faction has green lasers, another one has red, also very sort of Star Wars inspired. But they do go on to then hint at weapon rebalancing later in the development cycle that these things will play into. So there may be some like future upgrade path where you start off with red lasers and then go all the way up to maybe black lasers as the highest tier ones, something like that anyway. In the same dev blog here, they also go on to say you can now use that Talon Crossbow that we've always wanted to use. If you complete a certain mission, it looks like it might be a mission reward, which means you can rock around like Chewbacca if you like to, which could be fun. I think it's a nice little novel gimmick, but I don't think it's going to go much beyond that. The other little teaser they gave us was some nice posters that we can now add to our base. Now, this is an interesting one. I'm going to speculate a little bit on this at the moment, but I do wonder if this may be opening the door for later adding your own image files into the game and then putting them in posters in your base. That would be nice. A nice possibility to add, but at the moment that is just speculation. For now, it looks like these fixed posters are just decorations you can add to your base. Still a nice little addition, and I think they'll go very well in like crew quarters or common rooms in bases, POIs and stuff like that. Now, that is pretty much it for the dev blogs that we've had so far. Like I said at the time of recording, the Eleon love to do this thing when I put these videos out, to add another dev blog in there just so that I'm, you know, out of date straight away. But at the time of recording, that's all we know about 1.5. Now, there's some good stuff we can speculate about that, you know, like with the posters, like I just mentioned, but also with this sort of background coding, they're not giving much information about what they're doing in the background here. A lot of this dev blogs is stuff that that is tangible to us as players, that we'll see new factions, new POIs, and you know, some fancy pants posters and stuff like that. What's going on behind the scenes, we get a very little information about, but we do know that they're adding new AI code in because of what they say about the Raptors and Parasaurs as test candidates. Now, new AI is definitely something that we've been needing for a while. So the AI is so stupid, it's frustrating, such as the mechanoids just end up walking into walls and you just they're so stupid. So hopefully this is a start of an AI rework, and we're going to get some much smarter and more aggressive AI in the game. I don't know, it's speculation, but they're testing it on a couple of their assets already. It's a good sign. Also, the fact that they're adding new models for existing things in there, such as the weapons, the tools, deco blocks, and things like that, is also good. It means that their artist is getting up to speed. And hopefully, and again, this is massive speculation and probably wishful thinking on my part, but I'm hoping the player model itself is on the to-do list to be replaced and updated. And the big news about that is if they do update the player model, that will open the door for things like crouch, prone, and other maneuvers that a person can generally make. That is a much bigger task than it sounds. If they update the player model itself, they will have to do a bunch of work to the hitboxes of things so that you can actually crouch behind stuff, take cover, and they'll also have to do a bunch of work to the general shooting mechanics as well, I suspect, to bring it in more in line with modern FPS standards. But so it is a huge bit of work that I suspect that they want to do it all in one big update, perhaps 2.0, perhaps 3.0. In any case, the fact that they're making changes to models and stuff like that is potentially opening the door for that future development that we hope they make. For now, 1.5, it's not looking like it's going to be anything that big. It looks like it's mostly content related. In fact, 1.6, as per the vague post that they put in their roadmap, is also going to be content related. By the looks of it, it looks like we might have to wait now until 1.7, which is currently scheduled towards the end of December, and that's going to have some more of the technical changes and stuff like that. But as always, Eleon are keeping it very vague, with their post about 1.7 going as far as saying including new stuff. And obviously going back to the whole content creation thing, I think we're going to be seeing a theme from now on with Eleon, that we're just going to be getting more and more POIs and builds and stuff, and more community involvement as well, such with the Brotherhood of Far faction and the Warlords faction as well. Kind of community driven, community builds that they're going to be adding into the game. And it's a good thing, because the more stuff that we build for them, the more time they can actually spend coding and not building stuff for the game, which is good news. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that is what we know about version 1.5 so far. Expect the experimental version in any time now, in the next few days perhaps, certainly within a week or two, and we can actually start checking all these changes out for ourselves. If you're new to the channel, maybe you're new to Empyrion, consider subscribing to the channel, because I will be back with more Empyrion content. I will be doing a mini Let's Play series of the 1.5 experimental version in vanilla to go through all these story missions with you guys and check out all the new stuff as it comes. So make sure you're subscribed, and if you definitely want a notification of when I upload from YouTube, hit that little bell as well. And as always, I very much appreciate a little thumbs up if you like this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Until then, take care. Bye bye.